Hey, to all the real estate professionals out there, I want to let you know the Buyer's Mind is sponsored by Homebridge Financial. Homebridge loan officers are experts in new home financing, and they bring sales ideas and strategies and market intelligence and programs that will help sell homes. To learn more about that, go to builder.homebridge.com. Homebridge Financial, home financing made easy. You want to be a better salesperson? Do you want to be a better human? Interesting topic. We'll get into it today on The Buyer's Mind.
Welcome to The Buyer's Mind, where we take a closer look deep inside your customer's decision-making mechanism to reverse engineer the perfect sales presentation. Now, please welcome your host, Jeff Shore.
Well, welcome everyone once again to another episode of The Buyer's Mind. I am your host, Jeff Shore, and I am absolutely thrilled to bring on today executive, author, speaker, and a good friend, Ronda Conger. She's going to talk about her newly re-released book, Better Human. It is just such a fantastic book and very, very inspirational. But then she's an inspirational person. We spoke for quite a while, so just in the interest of time, we're going to get right to it. All right, what a joy to have my friend Ronda Conger with us, just an extremely talented leader, speaker, and author. Her books just really, really, the combination of fun, introspective, meaningful, but mostly challenging. So whether it's You Go First about leadership, whether it's the book Better Thinking, about just your thinking habits in life, or where we're going to talk today about how to be a better human. That's a lofty aim. I wouldn't put that in front of anybody unless you had the mind power, the personality, the electricity of Ronda Conger. So welcome, Ronda, to The Buyer's Mind.
Jeff Shore, thank you. You know, I just love any chance that I get to hang out with you. So thanks for this. And you know, this is my passion. This is my jam. So I'm excited to hang out and kind of dive into this.
Let's go all the way back, Ronda, to when you first wrote Better Human. You've written 3 books now. And that first book is always just so very, very interesting. The very process of writing it, of producing it. And then when that first box shows up at your house and you're standing there with a box cut in your hand, shaking, wondering, will anybody think my baby's going to be pretty? Take us all the way back to what caused you to want to write that book in the first place.
Well, you are spot on with that whole story, just for the record. So,
I've been there. I've done it myself. Every time a new book comes out, my hand shakes.
Yeah, well, you are pro grade, so you for sure, right, have set the bar very high with your books and everything you've done. But here's what I'll tell you. You know, I don't think I would have told you I was going to write a book. It just wasn't necessarily on my list. But what happened was I was speaking a ton. I was sharing my passion, my love for life. You know, it's funny, you know, being in the home building industry for as long as I have been, and, you know, I speak to different groups and businesses and chambers and companies and teams and all those type of things. And it was just interesting. I really very rarely spoke on home building, even though you think I would and should. But I really talked about my goal and hunt to be a better human every day. And, you know, so as I spoke about that to group after group after group, it just kind of came this theme. People would come up to me afterwards and say, hey, can I buy your book? Hey, can I buy your book? Or where do I get your book? And I just kept saying, I don't have a book. I don't have a book. And finally I was like, you know what? I evidently need to write a book. And that's really what spurred it. And, you know, the interesting part to me was I wrote Better Human 5 years ago and shipped it off, to my publisher and editor, finished it up, and they were, sending it to go get printed, and it was coming back via a boat. And I'll never forget, I was like halfway through, we're 2 months away from it getting to us. And I was like, I think we should turn the ship around. I don't think I want to do this. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if my baby's going to be pretty. I don't know if anyone's going to read her. I don't know if anyone is going to like it. And I'll never forget that moment. And then you're right. When the box got here and I opened it up, and wow. It has been it has been a wonderful 5 years. It's been amazing. You know what I think is interesting, Jeff, and I think you'll totally get this is, there's everything that's in my book, we've all heard in some form, shape, or way, right? We all know, instinctively what it takes to be a better human, and that it is a full-time job, and it's every day, and it's all day, and it's not just kind of some of the days. And I'll never forget one of my readers who, I actually know the gentleman and wonderful man, he read it and he stopped me and he just said, "Hey, I read your book. Thanks. I like it." Whatever. I was like, "Oh, great, good." He's like, "But I kind of know all of that." And I was like, "I completely agree with you. But what I want to know from you is, are you actually doing it?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because there's a big difference between knowing and doing.
I get that. I can understand that your mindset has to be right in order to read this book in the first place, because you say things like, you are special. Never stop believing that, right? And somebody might look at it, and the problem is, and it's not lost on you, we live in a cold, cynical world, right? We live in a world where people would mock things like that. And so was it difficult for you to look at it and say, I don't care, the world needs this message, I'm going to write it anyway? Or were you concerned that people might look at it and go, oh, come on, give me a break, better human says who?
Jeff, I disagree. And this is probably why I'm okay with putting the book out there the way I did. And I use the L word, that love word, a lot.
Yeah,
and
right.
One thing that, every human being, I don't care who you are, and if you say otherwise, I think you're lying to me and yourself, they need encouragement, right? There's a great quote that encouragement, I think it's John Maxwell, that says encouragement is like oxygen, right? To the soul, to the mind, to the brain is. And to me, I guess that's what part of this book is to say, is that if you have let everything else get to you, if you're listening, I always call it, don't listen to your monkey mind that is telling you that you can't do anything, you're not good enough, right? If you are listening to things around you, or if you're letting things pull you down, I guess my hope and prayer through Better Human is that I'm going to turn that. I'm going to change the way you think. I'm going to challenge you, because I love what you said when you introed me, Jeff. And you're right. I want this to be fun, because I want you to stay awake. Let's be honest. When you're reading this, I want it to be meaningful, but at the same time, I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you with the way you think, the way you act, the way you treat people, the way you're running your life. So yeah, my a good friend of mine says, "Why do I feel like you're poking me in the chest the whole time?"
Which I think is a good way to describe the book, actually, because it does cause you, to look at it and ask yourself the question, okay, even if this was common sense, is it the common way to live? And I would argue that living the way that you describe it is an uncommon way. And yet, if we can create those habits and rituals that you talk about, and ladle on that the love that you talk about, it seems to be the best way to live, right? Ultimately. So let me ask you about that then. From your perspective, how hard is it for you to live a better human life?
It's a full-time job, and I'm going to say that, that it's one of my favorite taglines, but it's true. And even I say that I'm far from done. And remember, as my sons lovingly like to remind me, I did not write perfect human. I wrote better human, and I'm far from perfect. I still have to, and they say, Jeff, too, that a lot of these books that are written, things, you really do it for yourself first and foremost. And so I would tell you that that really was for me first and foremost, to make sure I keep myself in check, make sure that I'm living this life that I read, that I've written about and that I talk about, and that I want to keep it first place. But you're right. There are things when it's challenging and it's hard, and I have to cue up my different habits, whether that's my gratitude. I've learned two, I've got to share with you, Jeff. I'm trying to think who shared it with me. Have you heard of Doc? He's a doctor. He's a brain doctor, Dr. Amen. Have you heard of him?
Oh yeah. Daniel Amen. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what I love. And this is what I'm saying when I'm a full-time job and I need it just as everyone else. So he shared his AM and his night routine the other day. And I was like, I am in. So every morning when he wakes up, opens his eyes, the first thing he says to himself is, it's going to be a great day. And he's saying, I'm trying to prime my brain for how this day is going to go. He says that a couple times, and then he says why it's going to be a great day. Right? Like, so today, Jeff Shore, I was like, it's going to be a great day. I'm hanging with my, Jeff Shore. It can't get much better than this. Come on now. Right? You and I on this podcast can hardly wait. Listed out a couple more things. And then he says, so I've primed my brain for the day, my energy, my mind, my head. I'm headed that way. And then he says, at the end of the day, I love this. I'm full of gratitude, and me, I have habits and things that I do, but he says, mine's a little bit different. At the end of the day, I spend 2 minutes and I say, what went well? Mm-hmm. What did you personally do? What went well for you that you did that you're proud of, and then do it again tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, yeah. I guess that's to me what that means to me on this hunt for better human, and that I'm still, right? I just learned this last week, and I'm adopting it, and I'm challenging myself, and I'm growing. So better human to me is that as long as I keep working on it and doing it, I'm just like everyone else. I'm on the hunt for it.
How much is this a matter of the rituals and the habits versus the will? Because the problem that I would see with the will is that it tends to come and go so much, and it depends on the circumstances that I'm in at any given time, or whether or not my significant other is being an idiot on this given day, or whatever it is. But when it comes to the habits, the rituals, even we were talking about Daniel Amen, and how do you start your day and end your day with gratitude and expectation, whatever it is. How much of this is habit, ritual, and how much of it is just having the right mindset and the will to do it that way?
I think that it depends on the human and what system they're operating out of. Right. So, for me, I would tell you this is probably my personality. There's a lot of it that's just who I am and what I believe in, and the importance of it. Yes, I layer on top of that some really good habits. I'm so afraid, Jeff Shore, of going the opposite direction, that I think that that's the pure will, right? Like, I don't want to be an angry human. I don't want to be a mean human. I don't want to be someone that's not thriving, or someone that's not successful, or someone that's not giving out love and encouragement and praise and doing big things. So I'm so afraid of that I think that that's what probably pushes me so hard this way, because I'm not interested in any of the other.
Right. I'm trying to remember who said it. I've always been an optimist. Frankly, I've never seen much sense in being the opposite. I'm trying to remember who said that, but I look at it and I go, it's a really good point. Okay, so now we want to be better humans, and this is a great time for this book to be re-released here. Is the re-release date in October. This is on basically the 5th year anniversary of the original release of Better Human, and it's coming out at a time when it is challenging a lot of people to try to be their best selves, right? I am fully convinced that 2020 will go down in our little blip on the historical map as the most bizarre and interesting year ever. And it's challenging us because it's put all of our habits and rituals and the life as we know it in upheaval. We've had to decide, how are we going to adapt? How are we going to change? How are we going to still try to be our best self? So this actually is a really good case study to ask, how can you be a better human when in some cases your life is falling apart around you? Because you know what? Relationships get messy, and loved ones die, and injuries happen, and illness takes its course. How do you be a better human when you're facing adversity?
It's funny. I have this sign that I just love, by the way, and it's guided me through a lot of things in my life, because you said it perfectly, Jeff. Life is messy, and that's with COVID or without, by the way. So do you know what I mean? I mean, life is just messy, and you're right. These times are like no other, for sure. And, the sign that I keep, because I need it, is if you're handed it, you can handle it. And so we've been handed this. And how we're going to come out of this is all based on, hugely on how we all act, right, as humans, and how we treat each other, how we treat ourselves, how we treat, everyone else, whether that's our team, our, our spouse, our children, our community. And I think now more than ever, I mean, it's hard. I mean, we're seeing, cranky people, angry people, mad people, people doing things that are just, and you want to say, well, it's okay because of COVID. And I disagree. This is where we need grace space more than ever. This is when we need patience and love and understanding more than ever. So I hope that, with the release of Better Human, because truly Better Human, you said, it's meaningful and it's challenging. And I appreciate that, because I think that the Better Human, a good chunk of it is about you being self-aware of yourself, how you're acting, what you're doing, what your rituals are, how you're handling yourself with, those around you, and really making you really inspect, right? Inspect yourself. Quit looking out and blaming everyone else, but really taking a look inside and saying, how am I acting? What is it like to be with me? Right? Is it good news? Is it bad news? I mean, what does that look like? And so I hope that, I think that's another reason we were really excited to relaunch this in October, is to say, man, now more than ever, I hope that you stop for a second, Gary Vaynerchuk says, the secret to success is being self-aware, understanding, right? And I hope that this is really all Better Human really comes down to, is I'm poking your chest and asking you all these questions to say, do you understand how you're behaving as a human? And is that good news?
You, in that description there, just in the last minute, if you go back and count it, you use the same word 3 times. You use the word hope. And I want to talk about the word hope as it relates to optimism, because Better Human, it has this overtone of being optimistic in the hope of living a better life, of living your best life, as you say, not your perfect life, but your best life. And I for whatever reason, I've been studying this concept of hope, this psychological basis of hope. And it's really interesting to me that people who struggle with depression, either in the short term, or those who struggle with deep clinical depression, where there's something physiologically wrong with them. And I have a very, very close friend who's going through this. Maybe that's what has inspired me to study it. But there is this idea of the absence of hope, or the reduction of hope, shows a significant rise in depression. And people like you and me, I get the sense that we're blessed with this hope gene. Like, we're excited about tomorrow, even though we don't fully understand it. And I feel legitimately bad for people who seem to be a little deficient at times in that hope gene, and they look around their world and they go, there's just nothing really to be all that hopeful for. Is this a bridge too far, Rhonda, or have I pegged you correctly on this one?
No, and Jeff, I'm so glad that you're saying all this, because, I'm a private human, by the way. So for me to write, I tease and say that I'm an introvert most days. Don't let me fool you. Is for me to write and share a tiny, tiny bit of my personal life, which I would say my young years, there was no hope. There really wasn't. It didn't look good. I always said I should have been the girl in a roadside ditch. And obviously I didn't end up there. So I did that because I don't want people to say, well, she's just a Pollyanna. She's had a great life and she doesn't understand hard things, and she hasn't done messy things. And so it's easy for her to have hope. And I would disagree with you. Hope from 0 to 18, there were none. There was nothing. And so I really had to, I love what you said earlier. Will, is this a will, Rhonda? Is this a habit? Is this your rituals? And you need to rely on all 3 at times. And you're right on the hope side, and especially when you're dealing with depression, these really important things that you speak of, that is when you probably need all 3 things. You need to fire up some sort of will, you need to fire up some side of some habit, and get into a ritual until you can fake it till you make it.
Yeah. 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 It's so interesting and really painful, obviously, to watch people who deal with deep depression. I don't want to make light of it at all. And it pisses me off when people say, come on, just buck up. Life is hard on everybody. But I feel legitimately bad for them because they don't have that hope. And I am hopeful for this life, for the next life. I just feel like I'm blessed with that hope, Gene. Let's talk about something else that had to happen for you in order to write this book. And that is that you had to make a decision just based on what you were just talking about, that you're a private person, and I'm with you on that, right? When the pandemic first hit and everybody said we were quarantined, I'm like, no problem. I've been practicing this for a long, long time, and even for me, it was like, get me out of here, right? So you had to embrace vulnerability, not just accept vulnerability. You had to embrace vulnerability. I mean, you really had to lean into that. You had to lay yourself out there in order to do this, even though, somewhere along the line, some online troll was going to say something absolutely horrible. Somebody was going to tell you you're full of it, whatever it is. Somebody say, I knew you when, Rhonda. I know your secrets. You're not a better human. All of these things that probably came up fall into that category of vulnerability, which is so hard to do. Was that difficult? I would almost look at it and ascribe the word bravery to that level of vulnerability.
You've described it perfectly. It was probably one of the hardest things I've done, which I think is interesting. I think that it pushed me as a person and who I am, and I had to be okay with it. And you're right. I mean, not everyone's going to agree. And you bet there's some people out there that have lovely, things to say and want to share. And that's okay. That's okay. But you're right. I mean, if you want to, as Jeff Shore, if you want to do big things, I love Hugh McLeod. He says, we all need to, make a dent in the universe, I hope, in some way or fashion, or form. And I felt like all those years speaking in public about it, to some degree, I mean, it was all just on how I ran my life, and I hoped that it would help others. And just like, when you just did a great conference, Jeff, and I don't know if you read this or if you understood this, but I took like 10 pages of notes, and it's because I'm constantly learning, right? And so to me, you're paying it forward, you're sharing your knowledge, all the things that you've learned, and making, such a huge dent in this universe. And that's how I looked at why I needed to do Better Human, is that based on the feedback I kept getting, will you write this book? Will you write this book? Can we buy your book? I was like, I need to pay this forward. And yes, I'm not absolutely 100% crazy about this idea, but at the same time, I need to be brave. I'm willing to put myself out there, but you bet it was hard. It was scary, especially from an introvert perspective. And I agree with you when this whole COVID thing, I was like, well, I'm already quarantined, so I'm good, right? Like I go to the office, I go home with my family, I'm good. So you're right. But when you just want to do big things, and I want to put myself out there. I want to be brave. I want to have, hope and love that hopefully I'm making a difference. And I'll tell you, in the last 5 years, the love, the recognition, I mean, people telling me that I've forever changed their life, that I've changed their spouses and their kids or their family members. And, we just got one the other day, and this one's very emotional, Jeff. We just got, one that she just said, this book forever changed my life. I was in an abusive relationship. I, didn't know a way out. I didn't know there was. I read her, Better Human, and I'm done, and I'm out, and I'm living the life that I dreamed of, and I don't know if I would have. And so there's these stories like this that you're just like, wow, you need to put yourself out there. The world needs it. I guess that's what I would say.
And that makes everything worth it. All the hard work, all of the doubt, all of the wonder, all of the critics, everything else, it all pays off with moments like that. If you want to be a better human, it seems to me that one of the things that you want to think about is how to be a complete human or a well-rounded human. And, I am not a huge proponent of this idea of perfect work-life balance. First of all, I think the term work-life balance should be rewritten as life-work balance. I would rather look at my life first and my work as a subset of my life. But beyond that, there's just the idea of these different compartments in your life. And I'm actually rereading right now for the 5th time. This is the only book other actually than the Bible that I would say that I've written, that I've read now 5 times. And it's the book, The Power of Full Engagement, Jim Lehrer and Tony Schwartz. And one of the things that they talk about is energy and how you manage your energy in all these different areas of your life. The physical, relational, spiritual, vocational, whatever it happens to be. And that energy management is going to be really, really critical. And I want to talk specifically here on that balance, or that look at how we live our life relative to how we work. Because you've got a chapter here that's going to say nothing works until you do. I know you're a hard worker. I know that you enjoy working hard. And yet there are people out there who think, they've got that rat race mentality that I'll just like bust my butt now and hopefully someday it'll pay off. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but that's the best that they can do along those lines. Can you address that a little bit? Just the idea of where does work fit into your life, and how does the idea of being a balanced human make you a better human?
I love your life work. So thank you for that, Jeff. And
it's not original, but you're welcome.
Well, it's correct. I'll tell you that. Yeah. It's correct. Yeah. And it's funny you said that, because when people talk to me, I think I did one of my talks was like this whole work balance thing, please lose it from your vocabulary, and you're living wrong if that's what you're living for. And it doesn't make sense to me. My life is, I always say, I only have one life, Jeff, and I want to live my best life. It's funny. My husband and I, we have this, when we eat dinner at night and we're finally, circling around the campfire and finally back together. And we kind of always have this thing that we love to do with each other. And that's really to kind of just raise our glass, whether that's a Diet Coke or a water or a wine, whatever it is. And to raise the glass to cheers just really quick, and to kind of pay gratitude, to say, here's to living our best life. Here's to living our best life. And that best life is, to me, is working. And this isn't work, Jeff. I mean, I absolutely adore, obviously, home building. I love my team, the community, and then my family is so hugely important to me, but I want them to come with me. And that's where I think sometimes people get in trouble, is when they're putting everything in a box and trying to keep everything separate. So work is work. Yes. Don't mix it with home. Home is home. Don't mix it with anything else. Whatever you're doing on your side, don't mix that in. And you know me, I mean, this is all one thing for me. This is all one thing for me. Writing, speaking. I mean, I'm talking about my life. I'm talking about my family. I'm talking about CBH Homes. I'm talking about my team, my work. I'm not no. This is my life work. Like I said, I love what you're saying here. This is what I'm doing. I'm trying to create a big life. I'm trying to create my best life, and it's all coming with me. Right? Like this whole balance thing, it's not what it's about for me. And sometimes, I sway more, and I've got a really big, family things that I'm doing. But then sometimes maybe I'm swinging that pendulum and I've got really big things going on at work, but I'm constantly moving and adjusting that based on what is important to me right now at this moment. And I think I'm not on the hunt to stop anytime soon. I'm not trying to hit it big or hit it out of the park so I can go retire and not work. This is it. This is where I find my joy, my passion, my love. And I firmly believe I'm bringing my husband and my sons with me, along with everyone else here with me. That's when it gets really, really good, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I certainly do see that truth in the idea that we compartmentalize our life so much, and then we say, I'm this person here and I'm that person there, and so I have these roles that I have to play, or hats that I have to switch out, and that's, I think, problematic when we look at it. It's probably not the best way to live our life. Before we wrap it up here, I just I want to just end up talking just a little bit about what advice you would have for people who are struggling right now. I mean, listen, I'm going to tell you, don't get the book, get the bundle. So if you go to rondaconger.com, RONDACONGER.com, there's a bundle. It's $39.95 for all 3 of the books. And let me just tell you, it is. If $39.95 isn't worth it to really change your mindset, you got bigger problems that I could solve. But I'll make it easier for you. If you buy the book bundle and you're not happy, just let me know. I'll send you a check. No questions asked. But as you look at it, there are people who are struggling right now, but maybe even on this conversation, there's a glimpse of hope. They're listening to it and they're saying, I'm listening to Ronda and I do have some hope besides just, get the book, which I espouse here. What advice do you have for somebody, just in wrapping it up, who maybe has been going through a tough time in any number of areas of their life, but really wants to have that hope?
I hope, there's that word, Jeff. I hope for them that, I have a simple check. This is like the simplest of checks, right? One of my favorite quotes is check yourself before you wreck yourself. And here's what I would want someone to do. If you are currently unhappy, if you're currently unfulfilled, if you're currently in a bad state, I want you to stop whatever you have been doing. So whatever you're watching, please turn that off. Whoever is coming through your phone and it's not helping, right? It's actually hurting you or adding to whatever you're feeling. Just stop taking those phone calls as well. Whatever that is. Does that make sense? And go completely the other way. Right? Like I want you to change what you're listening to, what you're watching, who you're listening to, whether you need to upgrade your friends, the people that you listen to, the people that you talk to, because I have to tell you, I find part of the issue is maybe you do want more, you do want different, but you have, based on your current mindset and energy and the way you're behaving, you have literally attracted all of that to you. I firmly believe that, by the way. And so I always say, hold on, can you just stop for 2 seconds and say, if you are unhappy in your life and how you're handling yourself and what you're doing, I want you to stop whatever you're doing because it's obviously not working. Mm-hmm. It's obviously not working. So you need to stop that and we need to run the opposite direction. My second book, Better Thinking, the whole reason of that one, Jeff, is that, every morning, Monday through Friday, and that's it. I don't do 7 days a week. Monday through Friday, every morning I wake up and I send out a thought or a quote. And truly that was meant just for my team, by the way, here at CBH Homes. And that was over 15 years ago. But then it was so funny. I had people saying, hey, my wife really needs this. Could you send your quote? My husband needs this. My daughter needs this. So then all of a sudden my list just kept growing and growing and growing. So today it's just amazing and I love it. But the reason why it's so powerful is because I'm trying to say to people, and I think this is what Dr. Amen was saying too, is that we have to start our day in a correct manner. Get your brain going in the right way, right? It's going to be a great day. Here's why. And then I'm going to go get it. Because you can either go get, right, the mood, the energy, the love, the thinking that you want, right? And I'm hoping that's all in a good, positive energy, things that fill your tank way, or you're going to go out and get the opposite. You're going to go listen to the news. You're going to go scroll through social media until you are even more depressed, in my opinion. Right? Like, what are you going out and getting? And I think that would be my number one piece of advice is, one, check yourself right here, right now. And whatever's not serving you, I want you to go the opposite way. I've told people to turn their phones off, block phone number, whatever you need to do. Right? And then I want you to say, what are you putting in the tank every single day? And that's truly what Better Human's about. I want to know what you're filling your tank with. Who are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you reading? That will answer a lot of questions for me.
Ronda Conger, just amazing stuff. You can go to rondaconger.com. You can buy the book, executive, author, speaker, and a really, really good human being. Great spending time with you, Ronda. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jeff Shore. I'm telling you, thanks for putting a dent in this universe. Thanks for making me smarter, better every single day. Big, big fan. Thank you. Thank you.
There you have it. Such a great conversation, an inspirational conversation. And I just love this opportunity here that we have to think through how we benefit from that optimism, from that hope, from that vulnerability. And just as the opportunity is in front of us every single day to be better humans, doesn't just benefits us, it benefits the entire world at a time that the entire world needs it. Until next time, go out there and change someone's world.